Hi students, this is Chef Rose. I'm here to make a video for you so that you can still kind of learn things we were going to do in class. And this is the 3 chocolate Bavarios on page 531. And it's a wonderful dessert. We've made it for the galas, we made it for many events. So I'm hoping at some point we can make it with you again. But I just want to show you, I've got all my mise en place ready. So basically the Bavarios is a base of crème anglaise, which we have to cook yet, flavored with chocolate, and in this case 3 different chocolates: white chocolate, some kind of a dark 60% bittersweet chocolate, and then milk chocolate. You can see they're chopped in separate bowls because we're going to divide up the base, which is the crème anglaise, into all 3 of those chocolates. And into the base as well is going to go gelatin. And there's my bloomed powdered gelatin sitting there waiting. Obviously, remember, you want to do that early on so the gelatin has time to bloom properly. I've also got a measuring cup here ready to measure the crème anglaise and then divide it between those 3 bowls of chocolate. I also have my bain-marie or double boiler water simmering ready to go to cook the crème anglaise. I also have a little bit of a ice water bath, and I will explain that later. And then I have my whipped cream all whipped up, soft peak. You don't want stiff peak because we're going to fold it into that chocolate crème anglaise base. So obviously folding it would mix it even more. So soft peak, and that's ready to go. And that will be divided into 3 for all the 3 different chocolate bases. And then I have my lovely little trifle glasses here ready to layer the 3 different bases. And probably we'll finish that on a separate video because it takes a little time to divide the Bavarian between the 3 glasses, refrigerate it, and then pour another layer on top. All right, so let's get started. This is 8 ounces of milk, 8 ounces of heavy cream, 8 egg yolks, and 3 ounces of sugar. I'm gonna cook it over the warm water. Remember, no whisk, it's a spatula. And we're going to cook it till it reaches 185 degrees, between 183 and 185, or till nappe, meaning that it coats the spoon. And hopefully you're having some memories of doing this when we did it for ice cream, I believe. I can't remember if we did it for another project, but this would have been another time to make the crème anglaise. And remember, crème anglaise is a really versatile custard, using, of course, for ice cream. Remember, we churned in the machine and flavored it. You can use the crème anglaise for this, for Bavarians. It's also used for just a simple sauce on a plate of dessert. So many things you can do with a crème anglaise. And this one, the only thing that's thickening this custard is the egg yolks. So you just want to be careful. It can go from being perfectly cooked, 1 second, 2 seconds later can be overcooked and it starts to curdle. So doing it over a bain-marie like this takes a little longer, but it's definitely a little safer and less likely to overcook. And so remember, we're looking nappe, that it coats the spoon, or in this case the spatula. So I used the red spatula, so you can see in the beginning it kind of beads off pretty quick. And of course, you have to be stirring this constantly. So the eggs around the side here wouldn't scramble or overcook. So the gelatin is going to go in once this is cooked. The gelatin will go in, and because it is a warm mixture, the gelatin will dissolve. And then I divide the mixture into the measuring cup. and then pour it over the 3 different chocolates. So again, I'm going to look at the consistency. Nope. And when you've made this enough times, you'll actually start to feel it and kind of know when you're just about there. Certainly, I would recommend a thermometer, but since I only have one hand to use, I am going to use the nappe method to know when it is ready. And of course, my experience in knowing when it is ready. Now, the reason for the ice water bath is that you have to let these mixtures, once the chocolate is incorporated, you have to let those mixtures cool slightly before you add whipped cream. You never want to add whipped cold cream into a warm mixture. It's going to deflate and melt the cream. So we want to use the cream for fluffiness and for lightness in this Bavarian, but we don't want it to melt. So the ice water bath is there just in case the mixture seems a little too warm to fold in the whipped cream. Now, what can happen if your kitchen or work area is kind of cool, while you're waiting for the first layer of mousse to set in the glasses, the other mousses might start to get a little cool and almost thicken too much. And so then you can kind of loosen the gelatin mixture in a little bit of, put it over the warm water a little bit, and that will loosen the gelatin if it starts to sit up. Hopefully you remember the temperatures that gelatin will dissolve in a 96-degree mixture or liquid, and then sets up at 69 in the refrigerator. So if you can remember those 2 numbers, that's great. So it really doesn't take a lot of heat to soften the gelatin or dissolve it. Remember, you always want to use cold liquid to bloom it, which I did, cold water. And then we'll put it into the warm mixture and that will dissolve it. Of course, this mixture will be much warmer than 96, but that's okay. The gelatin should be fine. So I can feel it starting to change. See how it looks? Still a little thin on the spoon, but I do feel it's getting there. So you can always adjust the heat too. Make sure the heat's not too high underneath. The water shouldn't be boiling. It should just be like a low simmer. So feel it's starting to get just a touch thicker. Look at the spoon. Oops, almost getting there. I can feel it. See how it's coating it just a little bit better now? Not dripping right off. Ooh, it's looking good. It's just about there. I can feel it. I'm going to turn the heat off completely now because I'm almost there. Let's look how it's coating. Ooh, much better. Okay. All right. Okay, look how it's coating that spoon really nicely. The spatula. I like using a red spatula like this so you can kind of see versus a white, but if you don't, that's fine. Obviously, if you have a thermometer, that would be ideal as well. All right, I've turned off the heat. I'm going to move this bowl now carefully. Get a oven mitt. Move the bowl off the heat. Good. Okay. Add my gelatin. I'm going to have to try and scrape it. See if I can get it out of the bowl here. Come on. Excuse me while I kind of try and loosen this here from the bowl. Hard to do with one hand. Realize God gave you 2 hands for a reason. There we go. All right, Gelatin's in. Get all of it in, even on the spatula here. Okay. All right. Stir it around till the gelatin dissolves. This gelatin was about a 0.4 ounce and bloomed with 2 ounces of cold water. Remember, gelatin, powdered gelatin, can hold up to 5 times its weight. So 0.4 times 5 was 2 ounces of cold water. Now the book just said gelatin, 0.4 ounces. That would indicate, usually without a weight of water, that usually indicates using sheet gelatin. But of course, I cannot purchase sheet gelatin from the grocery store, so I'm using the powdered. So it's the same weight, but then you measure out the exact amount of water to bloom it. All right, looks good. All right, beautiful. All right, let me move some of my dishes here. All right, so I'm going to carefully pour the crème anglaise into the measuring cup, so then I know how much to divide into all the bowls of chocolate. All right, good. Get rid of that bowl. Okay. So looks like I have about 24 ounces, so about 8 ounces for each bowl. Perfect. So I'll start with the white. Dark chocolate. And the milk chocolate. Perfect. Obviously, this is much easier with 2 hands, or at least a second person, but that's okay. So I'm gonna pull all the bowls close to me here. Let me get everything cleaned out of the way. And I'm gonna just start stirring all of them to start to melt the chocolate. And because the mixture is warm, actually pretty hot, it should melt the chocolate pretty easily. Remember, the smaller pieces of chocolate that you chop it into, the faster it's going to melt. All right, that's my white. So then you have to decide which one do you know, how do you want to layer it in the glass dish? Do I want to do dark chocolate first, white in the middle, milk on top, or really you can kind of do any variation. Some people like to do kind of an ombre effect, right? Dark to milk to white, but certainly any variation. Now, you can these 3 can be put into any kind of mold. Like in the book, they do like I believe a 6-inch ring or cake pan mold. And then there's sponge cake on the bottom of it. And I do love it with sponge cake, but I just really want to make sure you knew how to do a crème anglaise and then do a Bavarian from it, because that's part of this session this week. All right, the milk chocolate. Milk chocolate's going to melt really quickly. Why? Well, it's got less cocoa solids in it, remember, but it's got a lot of sugar. So it's going to melt very quickly. So I think I'm going to do the dark chocolate layer first in the glass. And then I think I'm going to do the white in the middle. I like having that color difference between the two. I don't know. Sometimes you don't see as much color difference if you put the milk chocolate and dark chocolate together. You know, based on my experience in making this in the past, I kind of like having the white in the middle. Adds a nice contrast between the two. And actually the white chocolate's nice and melted. It's ready to go. So I'm going to set it aside. The same with the milk chocolate. Going to set it aside. That'll be my last one. And again, it's not too cool in here, so they shouldn't cool down too quickly. And again, you'll know, because if you stir it and the mixture seems set, then you know it's a little too chilled. But right now, if I feel the bowl, it's still pretty warm. But of course, the addition of the chocolate has cooled down the mixture pretty low. I'd say maybe it's about 110. So it's not too bad. But I am going to put it over some ice so we can kind of facilitate this first one. And then I want to make sure I have my heavy cream nearby. So I've got my whipped cream. I'm going to get rid of the whip. Give me 1 second. Now the whipped cream's the harder one because you've whipped enough cream for all three. So it's usually just eyeball about 1/3 of it into your base. So I'm going to use the scoop. That'll help. So I'm going to go ahead and put, but you gotta stir this. You don't want to leave it on the ice too long. You want just enough so that it starts to feel a little cooler. And it shouldn't take too long, especially with the cocoa solids. And again, I don't want it cold. I don't want it thick, but I just want it cooler. Ideally, I want the Bavarian to be poured into the dishes. If you go too long and set the gelatin too far, then it'll be pretty thick like a mousse. But I want it pourable when I add it to the glasses. All right, so let's check it. Take it out of the ice. Let me move my ice water bath. Perfect. All right, I'm going to feel the bowl. I just want to feel that it's, oh, perfect. It's cooler. But it's still fluid, right? Still fluid. So this is the hardest part, is knowing at what point to fold in the whipped cream. Now keep in mind that the whipped cream is chilled and it's cool. So it's going to actually add coolness once I put it in and fold it in. All right, so I think I'm ready. So I'm going to go ahead and add, let's do about 1, 2, 3, 4 scoops. All right, let me fold it in. This is going to be challenging for me to do with one hand, but I'm going to try and do it here. Oh, it looks good. Oh, one of my favorite. These 3 different chocolate Bavarians together, it's just awesome. Everyone loves it. It's kind of a rich dessert, but it's kind of light too. So actually, you'd be amazed. You could eat the whole thing. At first you're like, wow, but it's super good. You know, death by chocolate dessert. All right, looks good. Obviously, I'm not folding as well as I could with one hand, but that looks pretty good. And you can see it's a little thicker now because of the whipped cream. So I'm going to bring it over and start pouring it into my lovely glasses. And make sure, I'm going to wipe down, make sure the bottom, there's no water, so that it drips into your cups. There we go. All right. Beautiful. Try and pour right in the center. Beautiful. Right in the center. Beautiful. Little whipped cream there. Pocket, that's fine. A little bit more. Good. So obviously I'm kind of eyeballing it by 1/3. Next one. So it looks like I could probably have gotten about 8 of these glasses. We were gonna do them in the foil cups. I'll put a little bit more in this one. A little bit more in that one. Good. Okay. Beautiful. Now I'm going to put these into the cooler and till it's set for about maybe 10 minutes. Come back, do the same procedure I just did with the white chocolate. Pour it over the set mousse. Hopefully it'll be set. Let the white chocolate mousse set and then finish with the milk chocolate. So check my next video for the finishing point of these Bavarians. All right? Thanks.